Hello everybody and welcome to your weekly insights, or your insights for whatever your right now time is. This is a bit of an 11/11 special. And yeah, interesting. There's lots moving through actually at the moment. I'm slightly aware sometimes that we just want to focus on the cards, so I might make another video about what's going on right now and just stick to the cards for this reading. A little bit of a different shuffle, a bit of a meditation here. Let's see what's going on here. Pick our cards out of here. 1, 2, and a 3. Let's put these back together. With this technique, we might get a couple of reversals, so let's see. Don't usually have reversals because I just shuffle my cards upright. And the energy is, and the meaning is basically always the same. If there's a kind of slightly inverted story to it, then that will come through. Honestly, I was trying to be a bit quicker at this beginning stage, but you know, it is what it is. Let's see what the bottom of the deck is, though. Off we go. Bottom of the deck. Oh, wow. Okay, Ace of Cups. Okay, so we will talk a little bit about this Christ consciousness. I mean, of course, I was watching something about the Holy Grail last night, but look at the difference in the Ace of Cups. With this deck, there are 2 children playing in the water there. Wow, beautiful. This really symbolizing new life, the new earth. I love that garland in the girl's hair there. The playfulness, being playful, being alive, remembering that unconditional love exists in all children, exists in all humans, exists in all of us. It really isn't difficult to to attain, but it is difficult sometimes to remember or to utilize or to connect to. So bottom of the deck, Ace of Cups, this very powerful Christ consciousness, again, peace. This idea of energetic truth moving through matter. And I'm drawn to the more Catholic understanding or tradition around the chalice and this kind of communion wafer and that dove of peace and this kind of water moving through it, and you know, connecting up a bit to some Buddhist lotus, though they're just the pads there, don't seem to be any flowers, but just really speaking of unity, unison, peace, togetherness, and really that we are all God's children, and really remembering that we are all God's children. If you hear some children in the background, my children are here. They're usually not here, but they're here for this one. A reminder here to just really connect up to the truth of your soul, of who you really are, and just to, if you need to, go back to childhood to remember what that is, reconnecting to the childhood desires, your childhood desires, and those childhood feelings of these kind of like long childhood summers, maybe playing in water, this connection of freedom and flow with water, getting in the flow, and also really just connecting with this idea of peace. I think it can be quite distracting when there are lots of stories or even experiences around you that seem divided. This is really speaking of this number 1 of unity, of flow, that the only constant in life is change. In presence, change is more easy because we are forever in the moment, and that is our constant. The moment is always your constant. The circumstances are always changing. When you really connect with the peace that is present, then we are free to really explore these more joyful, more playful experiences. It's really speaking of a massive elevation. So just remember that this is your destiny. Okay, so we do have some reversals. I'm just going to turn it over because actually, maybe let's turn it. Actually, it does feel a little bit. We're going to read these reversals. So we're going to read this Temperance as a reversal. When I'm doing personal readings and I get reversals, they're very rare. As I said, because of the way I shuffled them, I assumed that there were going to be some more. When I give personal readings and there is a reversal like this, the messaging is always that there's some sort of insight for the receiver or the asker of the question or the receiver of the message, that it's for them to really translate this meaning for themselves in addition to the messaging that comes here through me. So there's a bit of that message in here, but this is also speaking of this kind of like upside down issue with this peacefulness, that many have upside down ideas around what peace is, what flow is, what twin flame is, and this is really why these videos exist, is to really clarify the truth, as is moved through me around these very powerful awakening experiences. The feeling in this Temperance card is just very, very upside down. It's upside down and back to front, literally. There's so much upside down, back to front that exists either within you or experienced outside of you, in terms of literally it's kind of like, what is truth? So in this Temperance card, if we turn it the right way up, you cannot see the chalices, you cannot see the water flowing, which I find very interesting. We have these irises by the water. I do like the fact that the triangle symbol is on the back of the angel figure as well as on the front, because it is on the front of the angel figure in the traditional deck. But there's something hidden, it really speaks of something hidden, that the flow is hidden, that things are hidden, that the essence of this energy is here. This Christ consciousness energy I was talking about, this kind of walking on water, even though they're kind of like just dipping their toe in the water there, it's kind of speaking of this lack of faith, lack of confidence in miracles, and really in reality, and really reminding you that the reality is that miracles are real. Miracles is the reality. The civilization that we're living in now is just way less evolved in terms of consciousness than most of the civilizations that existed on Earth over time. We are a very naive civilization in terms of harnessing our consciousness, because we are so divided. When we divide our focus, we reduce our capacity to co-create together, because though that energy goes into fighting against each other, which kind of cancels out that capacity. So if somebody's adding 10 things to the pot and someone's taking away 10 things, the grand total is 0. And we spend so much time as a civilization doing this that we really don't evolve, essentially, to the capacity that we have in terms of the capacity of our consciousness, which is extremely, extremely high. There's some messaging. I'm actually going to say it. Messaging here. I personally have been very much struggling with my health throughout my whole life. But over the past 4 years especially, I was diagnosed with a genetic condition which is extremely disabling. And when I saw a very powerful, very astute therapist that did craniosacral therapy, this was a couple of years ago, she really highlighted that there was so much energy moving through from my crown. And this really is this kind of super connection to a huge amount of information. And that the reason why my body was struggling was because the frequency of this movement was so huge that essentially my body really struggled to align. This always, in the past, it sounded like a bit like a cop-out, but I think I was just being way too harsh on myself. I have extremely high expectations. I'm just sharing this in case it's relevant to you. It's speaking of this kind of like not seeing where the flow is. We have to really address the reality. And the reality is that these energies are huge, and this flow is a lot. And I think a lot of people fall into the trap of judging themselves and others as not winning, so to speak, when they are physically struggling, as though if we're really connected to the frequencies of these higher frequencies, then our body should be in this optimum perfect health. But what actually happens is it takes a huge amount of energy to flow this really powerful information. And it absolutely takes its toll on a body that is dealing with a huge amount of denseness just by kind of like being here and present. And I am in very, very dense, I've been in very, very dense energies, mostly just because of where I'm located at the moment. And it's just reminding you that in terms of your twin flame journey or your twin flame experience, how important health is, but how important what could be causing difficulty is literally that our bodies are not yet attuned to the frequencies of this really high unconditional love. And actually, this is a new thing that's never really moved through me before, but it really is saying that in alignment with everything that I know to be true around the collective, and that and I made a video this week about that. I'm going to be publishing about the collective, the importance of the collective experience for twin flame physical connection, and how interconnected all twin flames are, and how if you are completely egocentric, which is very, very much the focus of all twin flame information online, which kind of like is a great shame. If you're purely thinking through, I want this, I need to do this, I need to clear this, I need to, I want to, whatever. If that's the main entry point of everything that you're doing, you're going to really miss out on your purpose, or the purpose of love, which is really connection. If you take out this drive to connection, sometimes in the desire for connection, we can miss out on the connection that's already here. So if you are able to reach out and connect with the connection of all twin flames, then you will very much more easily connect or experience connection in your individual relationships. If you are not thinking in terms of connection, experiencing or growing or aiming in terms of genuine connection, not just in a one-to-one experience, but in an experience of all, in an authentic way, not in, again, a kind of BS way, not in a performative way. It's going to look like I'm loving and connected, but actually I treat people really badly because I'm completely disconnected from reality or disconnected from my body. In reality, a lot of people will do a lot better when they're in a dissociated state. You can actually kind of become more unwell, so to speak, in a physical way, and in a mental way or psychological way, when you actually come into reality, so to speak. So a lot of people are in a state of dissociation, and when you connect with the reality, which is this, it might feel uncomfortable, and this is where it can kind of like be driven into the shadow, so to speak. So this temperance reverse is kind of speaking of this kind of like shadow aspect of temperance, where this kind of enlightenment or balance is actually driven into imbalance and unseeing experiences and really behaviors and thoughts, and just how there's an invitation to become aware of that. And again, it doesn't really matter where you're experiencing this, because this could be experienced through you or outside of you. It doesn't really matter. It's all the same thing. Okay, let's get the next one. Here we go. I knew it was going to be a major, the world. So this is really powerful, placed next to this temperance. So it's really speaking of the healing. This temperance is speaking of healing, and that this temperance, even reversed, is healed to come into this experience of wholeness in the world. And this card, again, this is the kind of like behind the scenes backside version of the world. It represents finally being able to see yourself for who you truly are, and this idea of freedom. Freedom in a restricted kind of place. So this being here is perfectly free, floating, but also surrounded and kind of like framed by this literally kind of, I was going to say snake, but it kind of looks like asparagus. And this really represents free will and how it manifests in your life. So you are completely free, but at the same time, in a collective experience, that collective experience is always going to kind of keep you within a framework of what is possible. That doesn't mean that you can't expand that out, and that can't be expanded out, and you cannot go beyond these bounds. But it speaks that a boundary is actually necessary. We cannot experience freedom without a boundary. So that boundary in terms of free will. So in the kind of like twin flame understanding, this people would call this boundary divine will, or the connectedness, connection, divine will, the outside of our control stuff, timing, etc. The piece of this dimension that means that time exists, right? That can feel restrictive or out of one's control. This is kind of like the bounds. But the freedom cannot really exist without that boundary. So that doesn't need to restrict your experience of freedom. It is there. It is part of the experience of wholeness, part of the experience of freedom. And when that is really fully grasped, then this really represents this new world, this new world. This is a new world of consciousness. Beware not to think, fighting against war is not fighting for peace, or fighting for peace is impossible. Peace is part of conflict, created by conflict. So when conflict is apparent to us, no matter where that is, and this happens so much in twin flame experiences, peace is also created to an equal and opposite extent. There's misunderstanding around what that should look like and what that should manifest as. It really is this. This is the ultimate manifestation of that, which is, yes, there are boundaries. I embrace this boundary, this frame. It's like the frame that you put around a picture. Divine will, or lack of free will, so to speak, as it may experience, or lack of, I can have my desires manifest immediately. That is the frame that contains the beautiful picture that is you in this new world. Especially when you find yourself in this new world, you really realize that. And this is freedom. This is the freedom that you seek. This is the path. This is the point. Third card here, King of Cups, reversed. So again, this speaks to this idea. See, I told you there'd be some reversals. This speaks to this idea that everything's a bit topsy-turvy. Your idea of this divine masculine, so to speak, is topsy-turvy and upside down. Let's have a look at this card, some of the detail on it. Again, this is the back side of the card again. Look at these weapons he has behind his throne. Wow, this is crazy. And that net, got a net there in the ocean. What's he looking to catch? There's a ship on the horizon. Very, very stormy season, this King of Cups. In this kind of like topsy-turvy, upside-down, reversed version, there's a lot of fear in this King of Cups. A lot of these versions of this perfected divine masculine idea are not based, they're coming from fear and defensiveness, because look at this, the fear and defensiveness here in these really quite severe weapons here. It's really just speaking to this kind of like double upside downness. What I like about when it's upside down is these weapons fall away. So it's speaking of this kind of, if we can have gravity, if we put gravity in here, it's like these weapons just, they don't exist upside down. So they fall off the picture. And this is really speaking to losing the fear around how we want things to be presented, how we wish the divine masculine could present within all of us, because this is you know, within you. Everything that we seek outside of ourselves is something of ourselves that we kind of want to know and want to experience. So this divine masculine piece is kind of like the knowing piece, the flowing piece, the emotionally connected piece. It's connected up to this idea of Jesus as well. It's speaking to this idea that we have it wrong about, the story's wrong, essentially. The story's wrong around this holy masculine being, that there's been a lot of fear placed around that story, and that has really colored in a very negative way, and kind of like, again, speaking of this dissociation, dissociated us from the reality of the divine masculine manifestation on every single level, within the self, within an outside projected self, and within a more collective experience. This it's almost, when we disallow violence, it goes behind the scenes. When we seek to control our violent impulses, they go into the shadows and they are hidden behind this throne. So it's also speaking of this twin flame experience, which really reveals the whole of the divine masculine, that there is fear, there is this kind of like violence, but it's all been in the shadows. And that doesn't mean physical violence, but you know, this is quite severe stuff here. And again, fear-based, like this net here feels a bit fear-based, like I've got to catch all the fish, you know, kind of thing. It all feels a bit faux, especially when it's upside down. The good thing about this in reversal as well, though, is that it's not, this temperance in reverse is kind of like just doubled down, but this in reverse, because it has a more negative connotation in its upright position. When it's reversed, it does feel like this fear and this defensiveness is really fading away. And I do think there is a lot of that happening for a lot of divine masculine and male-bodied twin flames, that there's this kind of like release of fear, release of holding on, and release of defensiveness. There's been a huge amount of defensiveness around him, and it has been and is because of a lot of projections onto it that just weren't accurate. And this wholeness from this world is triggering this, because in wholeness we're allowed, so to speak, to embrace these more aggressive aspects to that masculine energy, if that makes sense. It's almost like let's call it the spiritual masculine man has been way too feminine, as in he's kind of like receptive. We haven't really had an example of a divine masculine that is really powerfully connected to his violent capacity. That doesn't mean that violent capacity gets expressed and that there's a violent nature or a violent personality there, but it is that there is no fear around that, because essentially that's about the ability to protect. And there's something really powerful about this King of Cups messaging here and card, because it really is speaking of the wholeness of this divine masculine energy, and this coming into balance of things, and this losing of imbalance, losing of fear, that, you know, the falling away of fear, the falling away of I'm going to say incorrect beliefs around these kind of subjects and concepts. And really, I'm feeling this divine masculine story, including the Jesus story, including the religious stories, all of the religious stories, that there are, you know, no matter of people's religious beliefs or how conscious they are of those religious beliefs, because even if we don't feel as though we ascribe to a religion, we're mostly born into some sort of religious belief system, and it does impact our consciousness. And across the board here, it is speaking of an enlightenment and a falling away of fear, a falling away of the BS, a falling away of lies, a falling away of defensiveness, and a falling away of the shadow, the fear around who we are in our fullness in this new space of consciousness, and really does speak of the manifestation in a physical way of the highest frequency, highest vibration, honestly, divine masculine. There's a huge amount of messaging from the divine masculine and around the divine masculine that I really need to potentially try and get out as quick as I can. I'll try and do that. So much moves through me so quickly, it's almost impossible for me to get it out, to be honest. I'm gonna have to try to create some sort of social media channel so that I can just record as and when it's there, so I can get it to you guys. But to cut a long story short, there's definitely a huge shift in this masculine energy. It feels like a softening. It's really a softening, an opening, and a balancing of that feminine, the ability to hear more, the ability to assimilate, the ability to really understand in a more gentle way. And that is for everybody and impacting everybody, because there all of this BS around this divine masculine was just all projection. And it was a collective thing, and it's all falling away now. And again, it's not about fault, and it's not about blame, and it's not about, oh, we need to heal and we need to cleanse and we need to move through. Even though that may occur, it's just that it's time. It's all timing, all of it, always. I made a message from the divine masculine. If you haven't seen it, it's a short. Please do check that out. Okay, last card is... oh, that Four of Pentacles again. Interesting. Where's this bottom one? There it is. Okay. Oh, what have I done? There we are. So, now we have the full picture. This Four of Pentacles, what does it have to say? So again, it's speaking of this idea of discernment. I love actually how this pentacle is balanced on his head. This is a king. there's a bit of a stagnation to this energy, this Four of Pentacles. And I feel, again, it's really a story of this divine masculine energy. And it's that he's kind of waiting to make his move, so to speak. He's not quite sure. He has a big mountain in front of him and he doesn't know how to get past it. I mean, it really speaks for itself. But I've never really noticed before the way that that one pentacle is kind of like balancing on the top of his head. It's speaking of this very sensitive balance between manifestation, so to speak, in the physical world, represented by the pentacles, the earth energy, which is very powerfully here in this card. Look at that green. In the Four of Pentacles, in the traditional other face of the tarot, so to speak, behind the Four of Pentacles, because it's a yellow based card, a yellow sky with a city in the background. And then we now see that he's sitting on his plinth, and he's also holding pentacles in front of him. We can't see those, but in front of him here is this huge mountain. So there's a huge amount of nature. There's this kind of feeling of trappedness, but this is all about timing. The material world is the world of time. Time is not within our control. The only thing we can control is our consciousness, our conscious experience, the way that we feel, what we are directing our thoughts and our focus to in our experience, what we are feeding in our experience. That in that regard, there's a huge amount of free will. We're completely free. So I always say, if you're in a room, and I'm in a room now, there's lots of objects in this room. How many different experiences could I have in this room? I could fall asleep and have an experience. I could lay my head on a pillow. I could lay my head on the floor. I could, there are so many different ways of experiencing a room, of experiencing an object, of experiencing a person. There are so many choices that we have in terms of our experience, but we do not have control of time. Time is this barrier, so to speak, this boundary. Time is the boundary that we have. So many people, the only issue twin flames have at all is with time. That they want to bend time and move time, and then they get they get upset that they can't do that. It's like, well, sorry to break it to you, but I was going to say, but you can't time travel. You can time travel, but only when you know that you're beyond time, right? So mostly you are beyond time. In the material world, time is here, and that is the boundary which gives us freedom. So you cannot be free without the boundary. Do not try to transcend time, because that is what's giving you your experience here. And without distance, there cannot be closeness. And this Four of Pentacles is really hammering that home about the timing, that if there's a barrier, so to speak, it's just a barrier of time. It's not a barrier of anything else. There isn't any work to do. It's not about you transcending anything. It's not about you reaching any, sort of goal, other than, I would literally say, increasing your vibration and finding the flow, which is everything. It's finding the things to focus upon that where you find that flow. And it is here. It's not, look, it's not here. It's all here. How beautiful is this? I love these cards. This is such a lovely tone to the colours. It's all here. That world is in the middle here. So from this world, you go here. From this world, we can go here. From this world, we go here, and here. It's kind of like the conception, okay? You are completely free. Completely free to explore within the boundaries of time. And this Four of Pentacles is saying that it's not quite, if it's ever not quite time, it's just not quite time. And count your blessings, but also just, this freedom is still here. Even when it seems like there's restriction, you are still completely free. Never forget that. And this is really at the core of everything that I share. I'll be making another video this week. I've got so much moving through here that I just can't get out on this one reading. I would like to pick a Rumi card from the Alana Fairchild Rumi Oracle here. An invitation to the heart of the divine, obviously. My oldest, I think probably my oldest oracle deck, and it just called to me when I was getting the cards out, so here we are. Have a little shuffle of these. Let's see, oh, they're a bit sticky. Come on, unstick yourselves. There we go. Where are you? Okay, there you are. Here we are. And so here we go. Number 12, Divine Discontent. Let's put it over here. Let's just put it over here. Interesting. So this is, speaking to these boundaries and what we can project onto them. Okay, so number 12, Divine Discontent. Winter falls upon us, so spring can bring new growth. Cry the tears, allow the longing. Sadness brings surrender and a deep desire to be free. I know your heart. I hear it breaking and groaning in darkest night when you imagine yourself to be silently cast adrift in sleep. It speaks to me, that sacred heart of yours, whispering its longing and bemoaning its divine discontent. It knows when something is amiss. It senses that something is not quite right as yet. There is a piece of the puzzle missing. Even in its tremendous gratitude for all that is, and there is much gratitude and sweet appreciation in that precious heart of yours, there is a murmuring, a questing. It cries out to heaven, vouchsafe me a blessing. I cannot go on. I am broken and in need of your tenderness for healing. I am empty and in need of filling, not with stuff and bits, but with the most precious nectar of divine fulfillment. Nothing else will satisfy me. Please, please restore me to wholeness. I can bear this missing piece, this broken disarray no longer. I listen and I cajole that wise heart of yours. I praise it for its honesty and longing, for the longing is an irresistible perfume to the beloved, attracting the only salve that will soothe the divine discontent of your truth-speaking heart, that of divine presence, absolute and unquestionable. There is a sense within you, perhaps quite obvious to your conscious mind, or perhaps only dimly registered as an unnameable underlying sense of anxiety, that something in your life is not quite right. It may be the sense, even amongst so much gratitude, of a yearning yet to be met, a longing yet to be fulfilled and satisfied. This is the pain of the awakening heart. The heart is capable of bliss and ecstatic reverence for the sheer beauty and wonder of creation. Yet as the heart matures, there will be a process of deep, passionate longing that awakens for the divine. It is the impatience that the caress of the great lover for the presence of the divine to come to you. Over time, that longing will grow from a mild inner sense of incompleteness, needing to become whole. It will develop into a holy fever, a sacred rage, a stamping of dancing feet, a pounding of fists upon the altar, and a longing so deep and distressing that one may well break into tears at the impossibility of bearing the pain of apparent separation for even a moment longer. Where is my beloved? Cries the awakening heart. I call for my beloved, and yet I am here, still waiting. I can stand this no longer. As devotion grows and passion for the divine intensifies, so too does this yearning, so much so that this may come to feel as though your heart is breaking for the divine. Or perhaps you are not quite there yet. Your heart is attached to smaller gods such as your status, your job, your lover, your body looking a certain way, or being able to live your life in a particular way. These smaller gods are not necessarily an issue, yet you have drawn this oracle. So it is guidance for you that the divine wants to draw you closer. Sometimes that means we will have the meagre meal wrested from our hands so we may feast upon something far more delectable and grand. The divine is a fiercely possessive lover. If there is a face of another beloved preventing you from longing for the divine embrace, and if you cannot see that this is the divine beloved within your lover that you are loving, well then, something will be done by heaven. So make your relationship sacrosanct. Seek the divine in all things. When you cannot, when the power of lesser gods has you in its grip, acknowledge it. Excuse me. Bear witness to it. Do not chastise. Instead, be truthful. Let your heart break and lie prostrate on the floor, hands clutching and head bowed, as though only your sadness and plight could stir the heart of the divine beloved into descent of succour and grace, saving you from a life far too bland for your exquisite Epicurean palate. Just don't misinterpret the pain and think that something really is wrong. If you are surrounded by status and money and cannot understand why you should mourn, it is even more important that you allow yourself to do so. Mourning is to be felt. Understanding is not so relevant. But if you must seek understanding, then know this, dear blazing angel. You are just waking from the deepest slumber, and with your awakening heart you are realizing a truth. A part of you, deeper and wider, vaster and more instinctive, truthful and intelligent than your mind, is lonely for the divine embrace. This is right. This is sensible. This is sanity. It is the pain, the real noble pain of the heart that says, there is something more than this inadequacy, this settling for plastic instead of precious gemstones that must end now. I cannot be fed by pixelated sunsets in animation upon my computer screen. I yearn to be blasted by so much radiance and beauty, by the real thing, that I become stupefied. I must witness so much divine splendour that all I can utter is some incoherent grunt. My mind dissembled and my heart ignited by the presence of my beloved. I want to become a fumbling, ecstatic wreck in the presence of my beloved. I want to allow this pain, this yearning, this divine discontent to guide me to my holy lover so my life may never be the same again. And so it shall be. The discontent divine growing within you is the beginning, not the destiny. Its purpose is to lead you into your greatest connection yet with divinity. Do not resist it, witness it. Do not dismiss it, trying to cover up its smell with rose petals. Let your rank discontent be the pathway to divinity, looking beyond what is, what has been prized and treasured and is now found to be plated, and not the precious gold it was once esteemed to be. Don't be scared, for you are my sidekick on this great holy adventure. I am here, you see, just around the corner. I have you in my sights, though you may not see me yet. I am holding a loaf of fresh bread hot from the kitchen of the Creator, hoping to entice you with its wafting scent, tempting you to follow me on towards something of far more substance. If you are still stuck on pine-scented air freshener, imagining it is anything akin to the wild scent of the pine forest for real, then how can I tempt you? Let the stench be the stench. Then the fragrance of God can be discerned, and together we can leave what is less behind, once and for all, grabbing like hungry school children for the divine bread with sweet fresh scent filling the air. I'm not sure there's any message. Excuse me for the coughs. It's got something stuck in my throat. Yeah. There couldn't be a more pertinent, powerful message, divine flame, there we go, like that, twin flame message than that. Everything is in that, and yet so many people misunderstand it. People, I have noticed over 10 years of work with them, they can get stuck and wallow in that divine discontent, so to speak, because they attach meaning to it. As I was just expressing in the reading, that something is wrong, something needs to be changed, that I always teach the only thought that hurts is the thought this shouldn't be happening. And what that messaging in that divine discontent card speaks of is this surrendering to the discontent. And you may think or feel that you have surrendered to the discontent, but if it is repeating, then you probably haven't. I mean, not if it's repeating. If it seems overwhelming, then you probably haven't. The repetition can be challenging because the timing can be quite a challenge. But the message around this card is really that when we this is the best time to really just surrender to all of this, because the timing, it's shifting. For those that have ears to hear, for those that can really understand what this means, you are the chosen few, honestly, that are making it through to this fully expressed divine human here in the world, connected and free. And this is absolutely your destiny. Thank you so much. What an absolutely beautiful reading. Thank you so much for your presence. A little bit longer this week, and I'll see you again very soon. Make sure you have subscribed, and if you can, get notifications, because I'm going to be uploading much more content and I don't want you to miss it. So get ready. Lots of love. See you soon.